The conflict with Iran is rapidly escalating to a new level. U.S. military forces are maintaining relentless attacks on Iran's ballistic missile program, while relentlessly targeting its naval units, which are now practically depleted. Concurrently, the Israeli Air Force has launched a fresh wave of targeted strikes. Earlier today, Iran's parliament building suffered an unprecedented attack, coupled with cyber warfare operations that hijacked Iranian television broadcasts for several hours. Adding to the turmoil, the terrorist organization Hezbollah, active on the northern border between Israel and Lebanon, entered the fray. In swift retaliation, the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, eliminated a leading figure in the Lebanese parliament and continued to carry out operations across Lebanon and Iran. Meanwhile, former U.S. President Donald Trump declared that the campaign against Iran is projected to last 4 to 5 weeks. A puzzling strategic error by Iran raises questions. Why is it targeting Gulf states along with Israel and the U.S.? Iran launched missile attacks against various Arab nations, intensifying regional tensions as a coalition of Arab fighting forces encircle Iran. Significant hostilities include a dramatic oil facility attack in Saudi Arabia, attributed to Iran, a move that has pushed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to the brink of retaliation. The situation in the Middle East appears poised to deteriorate further, highlighted by statements from senior URGC leader Ali, who firmly rejected any negotiations with the United States. In Lebanon, widespread panic has erupted, evidenced by massive traffic jams and escalating fears. Israeli authorities are reportedly contemplating unprecedented measures against Lebanon in response to ongoing terrorist activities perpetrated by groups within the country. Within Israel, officials have promised unexpected developments in Tehran within the next 2 days, signaling a possible dramatic shift in the conflict. Reporting live from the ground, I'm Pinto alongside Madi Shoshani, committed to delivering unfiltered and comprehensive coverage of these unfolding events in Israel and across the Middle East. Now, on the third day of the military campaign against Iran, following nearly 9 hours of relative calm, hostilities resumed this morning with multiple missile intercepts over Israeli airspace. President Trump estimated that the operation will extend for approximately a month, acknowledging Iran's vast geographic scale. After the first U.S. military casualties in this operation, Trump issued a stern warning, signaling that these losses may not be singular. He urged the Iranian people to rise against their government, asserting, "We stand with you." Many within the military are ready to surrender. He directly challenged the Revolutionary Guard, disarm and receive immunity or face death. Simultaneously, the Israeli Air Force has commenced a new series of strikes. The IDF is closely monitoring shifts in Iran's missile launch tactics and preparing for potential new developments as the conflict intensifies. In the past few hours, Israel has faced a significant escalation. Iranian forces launched a series of barges and a missile struck Beersheba, the largest city in southern Israel, causing multiple injuries. Simultaneously, an extraordinary report surfaced. The Israeli intelligence agency, Mossad, is actively undermining the Iranian regime's leadership. Mossad has released a statement in Persian, claiming to have eliminated key figures responsible for repression. They have also been broadcasting speeches by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former U.S. President Donald Trump on Iranian local television, fueling internal dissent. This internal turmoil among Iran's top leadership is severely disrupting their war management. Leaders are conflicted, turning back and forth on critical decisions within less than a day. Clearly, a fierce debate rages among those who remain after recent eliminations, struggling with how to proceed. Meanwhile, Hezbollah, backed by Iran, has launched rockets, drones, and even suicide drones toward Israel for the first time in about 18 months. In response, the Israel Defense Forces IDF conducted strikes across Lebanon. The Northern Command's commander assured residents that evacuations will not occur, but updates have been given to local communities that this exchange may continue for several days. As a result, Lebanon's northern roads are congested with civilians fleeing the area. This sudden surge in hostility marks the first attack from Lebanon since the ceasefire with Israel took effect. According to Hezbollah, this retaliation follows the killing of Qasem Soleimani. The IDF promptly retaliated by striking targets near Dhaka in Beirut. Preparing for a multi-front conflict, the IDF announced a massive mobilization. Over 60,000 reservists have been called up, with additional units on standby, while both the Israeli Air Force and Navy have shifted into attack mode. The military is actively targeting Iranian command centers and missile infrastructure, intensifying pressure on Tehran's war capabilities. Closer to the northern front, in the Israeli community of Ramot Naftali, homes sustained damage after a UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, strike. Though one drone was successfully intercepted by Israel's new laser defense system, known as AIM. Updates continue to develop rapidly. Shifting focus to the broader regional situation, tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia are reaching a boiling point. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia is described as having his finger on the trigger. Initially, Iran had hoped that their strike in the Gulf would intimidate neighboring countries, but instead it united an Arab-American coalition against Tehran. Meanwhile, oil prices have surged sharply in response to these mounting conflicts. The complex dance of power, influence, and survival continues to unfold across this volatile region, shaping the geopolitical landscape with every passing moment. On the ground, the situation is stark and clear-cut. Iran fires missiles into the Arab world, freezing any coordinated response, while Israel retaliates forcefully without hesitation. To shed more light on this escalating crisis, I'm turning to our senior Middle East correspondent, Mati Shashani. Mati, the tension and conflict seem to be worsening with each passing moment, especially for the Iranians and the urgency. The Middle East is ablaze, and we're all mourning the casualties from Iranian missile strikes not far from where I stand, in Damesh and Tel Aviv. Yet it's evident this campaign is far from over. It looks like it will continue for quite some time. Where do you think this is headed? What are the next moves for Israel and the United States? Thank you. First, let me clarify. The title senior correspondent comes more from my years than wisdom. But to your point, I wanted to offer a bit of perspective to ease the heaviness of the current reality. Here's how I see it. The Iranians have gravely miscalculated. The events unfolding these past 3 days reveal a pattern of critical errors from Tehran. This all began when they outright rejected multiple offers to halt or scale back their nuclear program and ballistic missile production. Not only did they refuse, but they did so with a tone that was disrespectful, belittling, and openly threatening to the U.S. President. This behavior shows their fundamental misunderstanding of the gravity and potential consequences of their actions. Then, when the missile waves came, several successive strikes, they slipped through the Iranian defense systems, which were expected to catch them. Consider this. Since last summer's Operation Rising Lion in June 2025, Iran had nearly a year to overhaul its defense doctrine, upgrade its systems, reinforce its intelligence, and root out internal spies who apparently exist within their ranks, feeding information to Israeli and American agencies. Yet, they failed on multiple fronts to prepare adequately. This failure speaks volumes about the nature of Iran's leadership, a corrupt, authoritarian regime disconnected from reality and unable to confront hard truths. even for its own survival or that of its people. Now they're paying the price for a dysfunctional doctrine and ideology that has driven Iran for nearly 5 decades. Strategically, this string of tactical setbacks could be leading toward a monumental shift, the possible downfall of the Ayatollah regime. In your opening remarks, you pointed out signs of discord and miscommunication within Iran's highest leadership. That's exactly the development we've long awaited, cracks emerging in the seemingly united front of radical Ayatollahs. Why is this happening? It's because the regime's leaders have come to realize the costs and dangers of their current path, not just to their posture in the region, but to their grip on power internally. These fissures could grow, accelerating instability within Iran and changing the trajectory of this conflict in the broader region. The leadership in Iran made a critical miscalculation, one they realized only when the consequences began unfolding. Their biggest mistake was in underestimating their neighbors' reactions, doubting Israel and the United States' capabilities, and overestimating their own strength. They assumed they could stop the attack, wield influence across the region, and intimidate opponents without facing serious repercussions. But none of that panned out as they expected. In just a few days, a small coalition consisting primarily of Israel and the U.S., backed quietly by nearby nations, evolved into an extensive alliance that now includes nearly every Arab country in the region. By challenging the Saudis, Emiratis, and Qataris repeatedly, they failed to anticipate a strong regional backlash. This wasn't a simple misstep. It represented a profound misunderstanding of the regional power dynamics. On the intelligence front, this misjudgment was equally glaring. Saudi Arabia, for example, boasts a considerable and well-equipped military force. Their wealth allows them to acquire top-tier weaponry from the United States and other suppliers, ensuring that they aren't a nation to be trifled with or easily intimidated. The recent reports revealed that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman authorized their military to retaliate against Iranian-linked attacks. This decisive move underscores the fact that Saudi Arabia is far from a passive player. Iran's leadership has made a string of strategic and tactical errors, both in perception and action, which have escalated into significant defeats. This leads us to the present day, nearing the conclusion of the third day of what is being called the Second Iran War. Israel has launched multiple strikes, deploying over 2,500 munitions within the first 24 hours of the campaign, with the United States contributing alongside. Numbers suggest even more countries might be joining in now. But either way, there have been thousands of munitions raining down on Iranian targets. Conversely, the Iranian side has managed to launch only a small fraction of missile attacks against Israel and neighboring countries. These strikes are often touted as symbolic victories, but the reality is far different. Most of their critical infrastructure has been destroyed or severely damaged. The majority of their missile launchers, as shown on screens worldwide, have been neutralized to a significant extent. Now, only a handful of ballistic missiles are making it through towards regional targets, a clear sign that Tehran is struggling to maintain its offensive capabilities. The numbers paint a clear picture. Iran faces a harsh reality in this conflict, marked by disruptions, losses, and diminishing influence across the Middle East. Imagine hundreds of jet fighters slicing through the skies over Iran, a relentless ballet of military power. From what I've gathered, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there was only one U.S. jet lost during this campaign. A single incident shrouded in mystery regarding how it crashed. Now, consider this. In any large-scale air operation involving hundreds of aircraft, accidents are almost inevitable. Yet this campaign has proceeded without a single operational flaw, seamless and precise. The Iranians have clearly miscalculated the scale and effectiveness of the response, having truly overstepped their bounds. But there's something else that everyone at home needs to witness: the voices of the Iranian people themselves. Videos are circulating showing crowds in Iran chanting Baby June, referring to Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has become a symbol of resistance against the Ayatollah regime. Remarkably, these demonstrations within Iran are expressing support for Israel. Think about it. When has history ever seen the citizens of a nation under attack actively cheering on the very country striking them? It's virtually unheard of, and the reason is clear. The Ayatollah regime is so deeply corrupt and broken that its own people are openly calling for its downfall. This is the reality we face today. Mati, I think your title deserves an upgrade to Rabbi Mati Shoshani. Thank you so much for joining us, especially taking time off from your military reserve duties to stand here and provide this critical update. We know your time is limited, so we'll catch you again later today. Here we are live from Israel, bringing you real-time news on the escalating conflict between Iran, Israel, and the United States. The entire unfolding saga. If you're committed to sharing truth and insight, please hit that subscribe button to spread the word. And for a closer glimpse into daily life here, follow me, Yapinto, and Mati Shoshani on social media, so you never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Now, just a short while ago, a missile struck Beersheba in southern Israel, injuring people at the scene. After nearly 9 hours of relative quiet, the barrage resumed this morning with sirens wailing and alarms blaring. I found myself rushing my children and family to bomb shelters repeatedly. This reality is anything but easy. Thankfully, many of the incoming missiles were intercepted mid-air, but a pressing question looms over us all. Is this an isolated incident, or does this mark a shift into a larger wave of attacks in the days ahead? Are we merely entering day 3 of Operation War of the Lion, or is this just the beginning of a new escalation? As this war intensifies, we see it unfolding on 3 distinct fronts. Deep within Iran itself, along the northern border, and across the Gulf arena. Shockingly, damage has extended to countries that were originally not intended to be part of this conflict. To truly understand the scope of what's happening, let's examine the full picture. Here's the latest update on the unfolding situation in Israel. In recent hours, Iran has launched multiple barrages of missiles targeting various locations within Israel. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, have observed a notable shift in Iran's firing approach. Previously, Iran's attacks came in sporadic, small, and uncoordinated salvos. Now, however, attempts are being made for more synchronized strikes, with multiple Iranian commands firing simultaneously. This shift means the missile barrages are becoming slightly larger and more coordinated, resulting in fewer isolated sirens across Israel. Despite these changes, the IDF has assessed that Iran still faces significant challenges in deploying massive barrages consisting of dozens of missiles launched simultaneously, the scale they presumably aim for. Meanwhile, alongside the ongoing missile launches into Israel, Israeli authorities are contemplating opening the airspace in a limited, controlled manner. This decision depends heavily on current threat assessments and remains uncertain. The situation reflects a delicate balancing act. Israel wants to restore essential movement in daily life, but not at the expense of preempting or worsening the security risks. It's important to remember that Israel's defense systems are not impenetrable. Missile defense technologies, while advanced, do allow some rockets to slip through and explode on the ground. This vulnerability is a persistent reality, whether the missiles come from Iran or Lebanon. Turning to the main battlefield axis, the strikes inside Iran itself. This marks the 3rd consecutive day of relentless operations by both American and Israeli forces. Each side is targeting different layers of Iran's military infrastructure to carefully dismantle their capabilities. The United States continues a heavy campaign against Iran's ballistic missile program, focusing specifically on storage depots and missile launch sites. The goal is clear: to disrupt Iran's ability to sustain continuous missile firing. Naval operations form a key piece of this strategy. U.S. naval forces keep targeting the Iranian Navy. Just yesterday, several Iranian vessels were destroyed or sunk by the U.S. Navy, with satellite images now confirming that more Iranian ships have been sunk even in port facilities. This sends a forceful message from the United States aimed at neutralizing Iran's maritime deterrent power and sealing off the Gulf region. Speaking of aerial operations, the United States continues to deploy its most advanced aircraft in this campaign. Stealth B-2 bombers have been actively used to strike ballistic missile sites inside Iran. Additionally, B-1 bombers have also been observed taking off from the U.S. and heading towards Iranian targets, according to flight tracking data. However, the intensity of operations has also led to dangerous incidents. One such unfortunate event occurred over Kuwait, where a U.S. F-15 fighter crashed during operational activity. Thankfully, according to U.S. Central Command, this was a friendly fire incident, and the pilots ejected safely, later being rescued on the ground. This incident underscores just how crowded, tense, and perilous the airspace over the Gulf has become, littered with missiles, UAVs, and numerous aircraft conducting combat operations. As of today, the overall atmosphere remains one of heightened alert and maneuvering, with all sides carefully adjusting their actions in this volatile scenario. This marks the first operational deployment of a new American weapon, inspired by the Iranian Shahed 136 missile, developed after reverse engineering the Iranian system. It's more than just a weapon. It's a powerful statement of innovation and strategic insight.